do think that today's day and age, today's man, today's father is different than previous generations. And I think that they are more open to having those conversations with somebody else, and they are prioritizing mental health, but there's still a stigma behind it. Dual incomes, we both work, we both wake up in the middle of the night, we both change diapers, we both make meals for our son, we try to, as evenly as we can, everything, we're at the same level. One of the guys that was there, he has a 4-month-old, but he's expecting his third. And I was like, yeah, he's 15 months old and he's going through the sleep regression. He's like, yep, we went through the same thing. He's like, it's brutal, and so just being able to hear somebody else that has gone through something similar and or is going through it simultaneously is it's comforting.
Hey everyone, I'm Corey Cummins, the founder of Manly Combos. Welcome back to another episode. I'm really excited today. We have Austin on from the Dad Meetup. Now, for people who don't know Manly Combos, I started the podcast to really help destigmatize men's mental health. And we do this in a couple ways. One, we have discussions with men who've gone to therapy. We have discussions with mental health professionals about specific topics associated to men. And I also talk to nonprofits and men's groups as well. So really excited to have Austin today. Austin, would you mind giving a quick introduction to yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Austin Nieves. I'm in Southern California. I'm in Orange County, and I'm a father to a 15-month-old boy, Hudson. And as mentioned, I started a Dad Meetup group here in Orange County, just to be able to get dads together once a month.
And so what was the impetus for the Dad Meetup? I don't have a child, but I could see why being able to meet other men could have a lot of impact. So what made you start it?
Yeah, so my wife, after we had Hudson, and after we were comfortable enough to get out of the house and start bringing him places, my wife just immediately started going to all of these mom groups. There's just so many around us where we live, and so she was going to the Mom Walk Collective, Fit for Mom, Mommy and Me classes, these music classes, and she's doing all these things. And not that I'm competitive, but I was like, yo, like, what about me, right? And I'm one of the first of my friends in my circle that is a dad. And one of the first times I hung out with them, we're watching football, and I went over there by myself, and we're just trying to relate. And I'm like, oh yeah, Hudson just started to roll. And they're like, that we just clearly weren't on the same pages, right? And so I figured I might as well try to start creating my own network, my own group of individuals that I can relate to and that are going through the same day-to-day struggles and challenges and wins as I am. And so I started the Dad Meetup group, and the first events got like 15 guys there, and slowly it's just been growing, and I've been hosting them once a month. And it was funny, the first time I went, and that's how I viewed it, the first time I went to the event, I viewed myself as like a guest to this meetup. And guys were like you're Austin, like you're the host. I was like, yeah, I guess I am the host. And so it kind of just like took off on its own, and it became a lot bigger and more important than I realized it was. At first it was really just being able to get guys together, and as I've been meeting more and more dads and more guys, I've been starting to learn how important this community's been for everybody. And so now there's a little bit more of a weight on my shoulders to make sure that I'm really coming through for these guys.
No, that's amazing. And I can only imagine, because I have a lot of friends who have kids, and I don't think I've ever heard of, them going to any type of dad meetup or anything like that. Not because they don't want to, but I just don't think there's been anything for it. So can you talk about when you guys meet up, is there any structure to it? Is it just kind of men hanging out, or is it like each session or each meetup, there's something specific that you guys try to do or focus on or anything?
Yeah, no, good question. And first of all, you're totally right about not having heard of something like this and a bunch of the dads getting together. Well, first of all, there's a stigma around it, right? I've had this conversation before with people, but like a lot of times when guys get together, usually it's around some type of social activity, whether it's sports or grabbing a beer, but like there's not many like guy dates going on, right? Coming to hang out, to be able to talk about something of substance. And so it's been interesting hearing, a lot of the guys that come through have, their wives are sending them through, or there are the guys that are really looking for that the outreach. But to answer your question, really there's no formal agenda to it. It's I usually find a coffee shop or a park that we can come to, and it's really just I'm going to be here for 2 hours with my son. Whoever wants to come on through and kick it can. And when the guys come through, I just make sure that I'm making the effort to start opening up conversations, and just I'm kind of just checking the temperature on how comfortable these guys are about opening up. If they're wanting to open up about anything serious about about parenthood and challenges that they're going through, or if they're just looking for some friends, right? Actually, a chunk of the guys are international and or from out of state that have moved locally and just don't know anybody. And so this has been their outlet to be able to build their own network and meet their own group of guys. So usually there's nothing crazy. I have done some where I've had some musicians come through and we'll kind of do like a backyard concert type of deal. But for the most part, it's just the dads, no moms. It's just I want the dads to come on through, and I encourage them to bring their kids. I want, it's kind of a win-win. It's the dads get their one-on-one time with their kids, mom gets a break and she gets to do her own thing, and then they get to be able to hang out with other dads that are, kind of just figuring it out as well.
I wonder why the moms force the dads to go, because they get some free time.
It's hilarious when you're talking to the dads. Everyone's negotiated something, right? Like they got to watch the game tonight, or they get to play an extra hour of video games, or there's always some negotiations taking place.
No, it's awesome. I guess. So if you're allowed to discuss anything, is I guess what have you seen that some of the men have kind of gone out of this from? Like, because I could imagine from a mental health perspective, being a dad, it's probably a minefield of emotions that are happening on a day-to-day basis that you don't know how to handle it, and also men probably don't normally talk about these things. And one of the things about Manly Combos is that I always joke. I was joking around and making some merchandise for it, and one of the things I was saying was, I forgot what I said exactly, but I was trying to be funny. But it's basically like, oh, wouldn't it be nice to have a conversation that isn't just men talking about men, women, and sports or something no, making money, women, and sports or something like that.
No, that's so spot on. That is so spot on. No, honestly, it's just so interesting because when you become a father or a parent, you just get so immersed in your child. I mean, their life is now your life, right? As much as people try to maintain all of their life prior to being a parent, but really you're just so immersed in what's going on in the day to day with your child. And so I was we had a meetup yesterday, and I was the one that was venting, and my wife she was traveling all week. And so we were in Texas last weekend. We traveled from Texas. I traveled with Hudson, my son, alone from Texas to California. And then I was with him from Monday to Friday night by myself. And it was just a lot. He's in a sleep regression, so he's not sleeping well. I'm not getting sleep. And he doesn't have the comfort of mom whenever he is having, a moment and just needs some comfort. And so by the end of it, I was just exhausted, right? I had my moments in the middle of the night, Tuesday or Wednesday night, it's like 3 a.m. Neither of us have slept. And I'm just like, I'm on the verge of tears, and I'm just like, when I go to these meetups, like we just have these candid conversations about just our day to day, and everyone can relate. One of the guys that was there, he has a 4-month-old, but he's expecting his third. And I was like, yeah, he's 15 months old and he's going through the sleep regression. He's like, yep, we went through the same thing. He's like, it's brutal. And so just being able to hear somebody else that has gone through something similar and or is going through it simultaneously is it's comforting, knowing that you're not alone, knowing that, those kind of, those moments where you're about to break down, or you're lost and you're confused and you don't think you're doing anything right, and just hearing that it's kind of like normal, everybody else is kind of going through the same thing, it brings a lot of comfort to a lot of the guys. And so it's a lot of those conversations, and again, it's just everyone's just talking about their day to day, and being able to hear, I went through this, or have you tried X, Y, and Z? Just being able to have that support, and it's just it's a supportive group of guys. I mean, everyone is so positive in hearing and receiving what other guys are going through, as well as giving advice. It's been really it's been really fun because we do talk about the sports and the making money and all of those things, but we also do sprinkle it in with, you know, I'm struggling through this, and I'm not sure what I'm doing, or I'm not sure what to do, or any suggestions, and everyone's an open book.
Yeah, no, that sounds great. And do you see the Dad Meetup evolving at all, or growing, or like, is there any kind of grand plans you have for it or anything?
Yeah, I am hoping to grow, and I'm actually in kind of in the middle of figuring out how to make that work, because my group, it's free for all the guys to come through. So there's no money coming from anywhere. It's just, I'm going to be here, and bring your kids in. We'll be there for a couple of hours, and so I'm hoping to be able to expand it throughout Orange County and Los Angeles County and Southern California, and then hopefully bring it to other states. I have had individuals request me to expand it to their cities, and I'm just trying to figure out how I can make most sense to do that. I mean, again, I'm not making any money on this, so I just need to make sure how I can fit it in with my job and parenting and all of those things. But that's definitely the end goal, and because today's dad, I'm realizing, and I've learned quickly, is just very hands-on and very involved. The more that I'm seeing it, the more I'm realizing how important this group and this community is for dads to be able to have that outlet. And just sometimes guys don't feel comfortable opening up to their significant other, to a woman, or to whoever it is, right? Sometimes it's easier to open up to a stranger. And so it's been a great outlet for a lot of guys. So the goal is to be able to is to expand it, but also simultaneously, and similar to what you're doing, is I'm just trying to find ways to be able to provide value to these dads. And so, for example, for the month of June, for Men's Mental Health Month, I connected with a therapist, and we offered a free 30-minute therapy session for anybody that wanted to sign up. And so I'm trying to find different ways to provide true value outside of the community, somebody to talk to. I'm currently trying to put together an event where we bring in a sleep specialist to talk about how we can get your child to sleep better, which will then enhance your sleep and hopefully the quality of life for your entire family. And so I've been able to make some really great connections with professionals locally, and just trying to figure out how I can implement it into my community.
I can imagine it. What is, I guess, for you as a dad, I guess, what are kind of the things you've had to go through, I guess, mentally and emotionally, that you're, trying to work through, and kind of, make sure that you also can be sane for yourself as well, not only for you, for your partner, for your kid, everything like that.
Yeah, well, one of the things that I've lost, and I need to, it's funny you bring this up, because I've just lost a lot of my own self discipline. So like, I'm sleeping through my alarm. I'm not waking up and going to the gym first thing in the morning. I was before I had my son, and early on when I was still at home and not going into the office, waking up at my alarm, I was doing some type of workout, moving my body, whether that was yoga or stretching, or lifting weights or running, whatever it was, doing something. I was doing like a 5-minute meditation, and then I have on my notes app of my phone a daily affirmations, and I've got a bunch of different ones, some for myself and just to push myself for work, and then some for being a parent and being a family, and just making sure I've got the right mindset going into the day, because that's going to affect the environment in my household. And I've just lost that. And so
I can
it's a
imagine
lot
that
of
being hard.
yeah. And so there's definitely been some things like that would positively impact me and my family so much if I had the mental strength to get back into it, which I'm working on, right? Just calculating, starting a nighttime routine to get me to up in the morning, and that whole thing. But it's kind of just like, got to get up and do it. But there's a lot of things. I mean, my wife's kicked me in the butt a few times, like, hey, like, you're early on. She's like, you're slacking. You really need to pick it up, right? You don't realize how much of a load you need to carry when you're having to tend to your child, you're having to tend to your wife, but then you're also having to tend to yourself and your work and your social life and whatever else you're trying to keep together, right? And so it's a matter of just having to prioritize it and time manage, and just figure out how you can squeeze all of that together. And that's a major challenge. You're juggling a lot, and you're not the
Yeah, I can imagine that being difficult. I have a lot of friends who have kids, so They talk to me about it a lot. And yeah, it seems like something that's quite hard to kind of keep up. I wake up very early, most days, 5:30 to go to the gym. But yeah, I can imagine that being quite hard if you've gotten woken up once or twice in the middle of the night with a
Right,
child.
right. And so that's been a big thing and I do encourage my wife to do this as well, but to try to find time to put yourself first. So there's random times, hey, like, I got a random invite to go out with some girlfriends, or hey, like, I'm gonna do a little spa day. It's like I'll never say no to her for that. A lot of the times, again, I mentioned when she was traveling, and there's things that she just does that I just can't do to provide my son. There's just this nature that she just has with my son that's just like, sometimes I'll try to soothe him and he just needs mom. And so I know that she's carrying a lot of the load. And so whenever I give her an opportunity, or whenever she asks for an opportunity, which is rare, for for herself, always give it to her, right? Like, I'm trying to find times for myself to prioritize me and my mental health and my physical health and all of those things. And that's a major challenge.
That's great that you do that, because that's definitely something I can imagine being really difficult. And it's something that, yeah, I see friends who, when they don't have any time for themselves at all, you can tell they start to go, "Man."
No, it is.
Well, I'm usually, because I live in London, but from New York, New Jersey area. Most of my friends in London don't have the kids yet. They're starting to have kids, but most of my friends in New York have kids, and they're a little older than me. And it's funny, whenever I come home, I'm like, "Oh, okay, I want to come see your kids," and they're like, "No." They're like, you are my reason to get out of the house.
Right. That's right. Yeah, we keep this separate. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, "But I want to see your kids." They're like, "That's great."
I'll when I see you out, I'll show you pictures.
Exactly. So usually I have to see them twice. I'm like, "Well, can I?" Or I come early. I'm like, "Can I come like early and see your kids, and then we can go out?" And they're like, "Sure,
Right.
that's fine." Because I also don't live there, so I'm like, "Oh, I want to see your kids. Like, oh, it's part of your life."
Totally.
So, but no, it's funny. And then I really like how you incorporated, bringing a therapist in, because I do think, obviously, manly combos. I don't believe that the only way to seek help is by going to therapy. That's not the only way, but I do think a lot of men really struggle to, one, understand how to get help. They're nervous to take help and to receive it. And so I think it's great that do that, because I'm sure it's funny. I've gone to therapy for different reasons in my life. I lost my mother when I was 25 to cancer, and I've had other life situations happen, but it's something I've always said to my friends, like, "Oh, if I ever, get married or get into a relationship, I'll start relationship therapy at the beginning, because like, why not?"
Totally.
And then I was like, also, if I have a kid, I'll probably just have therapist every month, just because it's like, it's such a stressful thing that there's no playbook to it. So, and if there was a playbook, that person would be a billionaire. So
Yeah.
I think it's a great thing that you're doing that, because I think I think a lot of times people just don't know how to do it, don't know who to speak to. And if you're making it easy for them to do that, I think it kind of really opens the door. So I think that's a great thing you're doing.
Well, and you're so spot on. And it's, again, I said this once, but I'm gonna say it again. Like, it's exactly what you were saying and what you're doing. I do think that today's day and age, today's man, today's father is different than previous generations, and I think that they are more open to having those conversations with somebody else, and they are prioritizing mental health, but there's still a stigma behind it. And so I'm just wanting to make sure, similar to you, is that it's available, and that maybe it's like the gateway to just get them into doing it regularly, right? They finally have someone to talk to. They do it once, like, oh man, that was really refreshing. That took a ton of weight off of me. It provided me a lot of clarity. Whatever it does, hopefully it will be able to open it up to have them, continue it down the road. And even if not, just wanting to make sure that it's accessible, because it's just.
Have you gone to therapy at all or anything for yourself?
I have, and the first time I went to therapy was with my wife, premarital counseling. Nothing wrong. It was a preventative measure.
You're the first person I've ever heard do that, and it's something I've always said that I would do, because I think it's like such a smart thing. That's awesome you did it. So tell me about it, if you don't mind.
So no, not at all. Well, so my wife, she's just like a total rock star, total stud. We're a dual income household, so we both work. And when it comes to parenting, and I'll go to the premarital counseling after this, but at least today, dual incomes. We both work. We both wake up in the middle of the night. We both change diapers. We both make meals for our son. We try everything. We're at the same level when it comes to everything that we do in the house. But my wife, she's really good at having uncomfortable conversations and talking about struggles and issues and arguments, and I'm not. I avoid and deflect and I'll go silent on you opposed to actually talking about, issues that are going on. And so I forget who was the one that brought it up, but I knew, at least on my end, that there were conversations that we should be having that I know I wasn't comfortable enough to bring up. And at the same time, we have very open dialogue, and I was still confident that there were things that we probably should talk about before we get married that we probably haven't even thought of. And so let's have a third party come into the mix and just walk us through it. And it was super informative, and we really enjoyed our sessions in our therapist. We talked about some really big hitting topics when it comes to our marriage and our relationship, but also bringing up different traumas of our childhood that are affecting us today and how that's affecting our relationships with each other and our relationships with our families and all of the things. And being able to find like the root cause of something, like I didn't realize how big of an impact it was, but like to understand it like in full, it's like you just connect the dots. You just have that, and so that was just super strong. And then also just being able to learn some different tools and tactics for someone such as me to be able to engage in those uncomfortable conversations that I wouldn't have prior, right? How to communicate in an argument, or to be able to communicate so it doesn't get to an argument. You can communicate your discomfort or your differences, but you're not coming at it combatively, which would I would either get defensive or I'd get combative, but I couldn't find the middle ground of, hey, I don't agree with what you've said or what you've done or how we're approaching something. I feel this way, I think. So it just provided me with a lot of tools. Honestly, it's probably something that we stopped it. It's probably something that we will end up doing again just because we found it super beneficial to our relationship.
I think that's awesome. It's I think again, as I said, I don't have children, not children, a wife, but it's funny. I have a lot of friends who've gone to counseling is when things are bad. And I feel like people look at it the same way. I feel like it's a similar pattern to people look at therapy. They're like, oh, no, it has to be really bad to go to therapy. It's like, well, you don't go to the gym. You don't go to the gym once you get really fat.
Right.
And so I think the same thing I always say, when you have a relationship, you have two people from different backgrounds that perceive the world differently, that communicate differently, that understand communication differently. Even if you have two people who are, have gone to therapy and who are incredibly able to look internally, it's still two different humans.
Totally.
And yeah, so it's great that you've done that. So it's obviously it's working. So good for you.
It is. No, it is. Yeah, we're good.
So no, that's great, because I've spoken to friends about it, and some of my friends were like, they're like, Corey, only you would do that.
And I'm again, that is the stigma, right? And it's true, but it's so powerful. And like you said, like it's so beneficial, but I told my wife, like, we're going the distance. We're not going to be one of the statistics, right? And like, let's work on our problems now. Like, let's fix and work on us, opposed to waiting until it's just too late.
Totally. No, I completely agree with that. And so one, I appreciate you kind of opening up about, why you guys went to therapy and what you're looking to do. And I guess, some questions, one question I have for people, is there any other groups? It doesn't have to be dad meetups, but if there's any nonprofits, or it could be meetups or dad groups or anything that you recommend for other men listening, just to kind of seek help and stuff.
No, great question. Honestly, I'm not a part of any other groups. This is the one that I kind of am. I put all my eggs into this basket, and so I just do my best to be as engaged as possible. I opened up a Discord channel for this group to be able to let dads engage with each other outside of just the events, and then obviously the events. And there's a couple other Discord channels in Orange County. A channel called Orange County Dads. There's hundreds of dads in this one group, and so I send guys to that group as well, because they're super engaging and they're doing activities and and all of those things. And so there's nothing else out there for dads. Really, the only thing locally that is that's truly available to dads are church groups.
Okay.
I know that they have dad groups. I don't know. I forget what they call them. I was raised religious. I'm not very religious now, and so I don't partake in those. But that's the only other place where I've heard dads get together somewhat regularly. But I think a lot of the reason why my group has been getting a little bit of attention is that there just really isn't anything geared towards. There's not much geared towards dads. A lot towards moms, a lot towards families, and a lot towards guys, men, but not a lot towards dads. I think that it's a little niche, um, kind of little hidden gem that we're trying to grow and trying to make sure is accessible to more people.
No, that's completely fair. And one of the questions I always like to ask is like, do you have any favorite books you've read on about mental health or anything that you like, you think anybody should read?
Yeah, and
Or about parenting?
yeah, no, I mean, I'm not sure if I would. I'm not sure if you consider this a mental health book, but Atomic Habits, and that's just about like finding. It's just about the processes of bettering yourself, like a little bit at a time, right? Like you're not going to be able to. I'm not going to be able to wake up and go to the gym and do my meditations and my daily words of affirmation just like in a blink of the eye, right? But if I start with a nighttime routine, right, and start getting to bed early and I start doing that, it's going to make me, it'll be easier for me to wake up at my alarm. And then once I wake up at my alarm, start, you know, put on your workout shoes every morning, right? So I start putting on my workout shoes and then just go to the gym, right? It's just like step by step processes, and at least for me, that is, and with all that I'm juggling, that's a way that I can be able to slowly better myself and start going in the direction that I want to for, again, my physical health, my mental health, or whatever it is. So Atomic Habits, not I'm kind of bending your rules for mental health, but that's going to be the book that
Someone actually recommended that book as well. So
okay.
that is a book, that is a mental health book, because that does help people create good life habits, which does impact your mental health. So it's it's a great book. Well,
Good.
Listen, I really appreciate you joining today. It was great to learn about the Dad Meetup and what you guys are doing, and hopefully it grows outside of Southern California. Maybe one day we'll get to London, when maybe I'll have a child by then.
That's right.
So yeah, or maybe I'll be the one that helps you bring it to London one day.
There we go. Now we're talking.
Exactly. But yeah, thanks for joining today, and looking forward to getting this on the podcast, getting it live.
Yeah, no. Thank you for your time and love what you're doing and what you're preaching. So just keep it up, and thanks again for having me.
Great. Thank you, Austin.